Recording in progress.
She'll come later. It's
Later.
a city council meeting today.
Hi, you're Doug.
I am,
You?
yeah.
I'm Joan Pliego. Just wanted to say hi because I get all your newsletters.
Oh, okay.
Everything.
Joan, what is
Joan
your last name?
Pliego.
Oh, Pliego from MSS.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Welcome. For everybody in the lobby, we're going to get going. Get your coffee. The iced tea is amazing. There's water and cookies and pastries.
Squire and from engineering school. Yeah, and he's asking whether there's anybody that can help with the slides. He has slides. Who is in Singapore? Who is in Singapore? And who is that? Who is that person? Yeah.
In the lobby, everybody come on in. We're going to get going. Eduardo, come on up.
ते सेमीकंडक्टर इव्हेंट आणि काय त्यांचं चाललेलं आहे
The speakers, Kaya was wondering where he should be sitting.
ते पण मला लिहून काढायचे ग्लोबल चेंबरची मेंबरशिप घ्यायला सुद्धा 1 वर्ष लावला त्यांनी
This is not beer. This is iced tea. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We have an audience here at Global Chamber inside Thunderbird for the 4th annual Global Chamber Semiconductor Summit. We have a good long day, and my name, by the way, is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. We have an audience from around the world, and so it's a variety of people, I think we're going to lose most of the folks from Europe and the Middle East and Africa here within the next couple hours, and then we're going to pick up on Asia toward the end of this program. For your own information about today, there's really 2 blocks of 2 hours. From 1:30 to 3:30, we largely have mostly North America oriented and Arizona oriented. And then we have a break at 3:30 to 4. And from 4 to 6 will primarily be Asia oriented, and primarily Japan, Korea, and Singapore and Taiwan. For some of you, if you're members of Global Chamber, there is a program here at Thunderbird after ours. And so if you're a member of Global Chamber and you might be interested, it's an Arizona State University, Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Arizona. Is Chris here yet from JCCIAZ? Is Chris here? I see Mike waving. And Chris Masuyama is not here. It's okay. So if you're interested in participating in that event and you're a member of Global Chamber, please let me know sometime over the next 4 hours, and we'll go from there. The food and the drinks are here. The restroom is down the hall, past the cafe. The Global Chamber office is a little bit further down, but for now, I don't think you're going to need that for today. The other parts to know about for the rest of the week, there are a variety of Japanese companies that are joining us here today at this event. Some of them may be here. Most of them will probably be coming in the second half of this program. Tomorrow, many of them are going to be part of a tour here in Phoenix, and then they're going to Tucson on Friday morning. For those of you who are members of Global Chamber, there is a reception tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and if you're interested in participating in that with this group of Japanese, primarily Japanese companies, please let me know, and we can get you into that event. And then finally, in terms of the week, maybe not finally, but at least finally for Friday, there is the National Association of Japan Japan-America Societies, and Andrew is here. I thought you looked very familiar. So Andrew is here. He red-eyed it in to Phoenix, and we'll hear from Andrew a little bit later in the program, but if you're interested in participating in the launch of that Japan-America Society here in Phoenix, let us know, either Andrew or myself, and we have a celebration at the Japanese Garden on Friday there. Behind me, you'll be seeing some things about Global Chamber. This is our headquarters. So we were founded here 10 years ago in Arizona, and we now have over 525 chapters around the world, but this is still our headquarters, and we're really proud of the fact that Thunderbird in particular has been a real inspiration for Global Chamber in forming the global mindset that we have all over the world. I want to introduce this fellow behind me right there. That might have been a couple years ago, but he still looks really young. Eduardo Gonzalez, previously to him in doing his consulting work at 258 Consulting, was working with Pro Mexico and has been involved with exporting and foreign direct investment for a couple decades. He's our new Global Chamber Advisory Board Chair, and I'd just like to introduce him and have him just say a couple words. Eduardo.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to take this opportunity at Global Chamber to grow the chamber and bring in new people and new members, new chapters. Welcome to the people that woke up at 5 a.m. and for the people getting those flights in from late. we have a great event. We have a lot of experts, a lot of leaders. We have people from Mexico, from Chihuahua State Government, and we're really looking forward for a nice event. My background is in manufacturing and in consulting, and we are really interested in talking to people how to make North America stronger and try to do it with the Global Chamber team. So thank you for the opportunity and looking forward to talking with each and every one of you. Thank you.
You know, the purpose of Global Chamber is to connect people around the world. As part of my own work with the DuPont company and with Freeport-McMoRan back when they were Phelps Dodge, I know that big companies have the resources, generally what they need to be global. And so today we'll be hearing from big companies. But a lot of the folks that you'll also be hearing are folks from small and medium-sized companies. And my own experience, even within the DuPont company, where we had a division that was only $1 billion, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have certainly the resources that we need. So Global Chamber is built around having an organization that's everywhere in the world, so that if a company is looking to grow from Phoenix or anywhere, but let's say Phoenix to Tucson, to San Francisco, to Tokyo, to London, there's somebody on the ground there that they can know and trust as a professional. And so our goal is to continue to expand that and help our members be more and more successful. Even if it's just across Arizona, hopefully be successful. A lot of the early inspiration for me in forming Global Chamber was Thunderbird, and visiting the old cafeteria out on the old campus was, quite frankly, to me at least, as a Globie, very exciting, because it was mostly international people from other countries, and they were positive and professional and enthusiastic and believed they could impact the world in great ways. Like Shane Jacobs, who's part of Safeguard Global, and a Thunderbird graduate. These are people within Global Chamber, even now, that believe they can impact the world, and they are. And so thank you so much for Thunderbird for being such an amazing organization. And Dr. Lena Booth is going to be here, and if you could stand and let us know a little bit more about what's going on at Thunderbird so that we can help and support. Thank you, Lena.
Thank you, Doug. Well, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to people around the world and also our audience here. My name is Lena Booth. I'm the Deputy Dean of Thunderbird School of Global Management, and we're now part of Arizona State University. And Thunderbird has been a vanguard in global business, trade, and management for more than 78 years. We were founded in the Thunderbird Air Force Base in Glendale, and that was right after World War II, from General Carl Jans, who got the government to donate the land for us to build this school 78 years ago. And since then, Thunderbird has been a really vanguard of all these global business. We have trained people from all over the world, including people in the United States, because our founders believe that borders frequented by trade seldom need soldiers. And today, we're also just a couple of days ago heard that we are #1 again in international trade, ranked by QS World Ranking. So we're #1 in the world in international trade 3 years in a row. So this is our legacy that we're continuing to build. And of course, besides faculty, besides curriculum, and all these great things that people at Thunderbird are doing to make us a very, very prestigious and vanguard of all these education arena, I also would like to thank our partners, especially City of Phoenix, particularly Mayor Kate Gallego, for investing in us, for helping with lots of initiatives that we're trying to do. Besides, Global Chamber, Doug Brunke has been a great partner for us as well throughout, and he said this is their headquarters, is our headquarters as well, all right? So we share the same headquarters here in this beautiful building that we just moved in about 2.5 years ago. I want to share with you a little bit about our degree programs. We're ranked very high internationally. We have been ranked for many, many years. QS World Ranking is just a recent phenomenon, but US World News and Report had ranked us as #1 in global business for many years, for 18 years prior to that. But 10 years ago, we joined ASU, so we're now part of Arizona State University. And for me, being a professor, starting as a professor at Thunderbird and now Deputy Dean of Thunderbird, have gone through lots of changes that we have seen in our school, and we emerged stronger than ever. So currently, we have programs in different modalities at different levels. We have 2 undergraduate programs. One is called the Bachelor of Global Management, and another one is Bachelor of Science in International Trade. But we also have master's level programs. For example, the students who are occupying this building right now is in our Master of Global Management program, which is our flagship program. It's also our largest program at Thunderbird. We are very small. We are a very small but nimble school at the whole Arizona State University, which is a huge university. But we are a small part, and yet we are very elite. We rank very highly, and we are known all over the world. Besides our Master of Global Management, we also have our Executive Master of Global Management. We have an executive degree in Space Leadership, Business, and Policy, the very first of space program that is emphasizing in leadership and management, not just the hard sciences like the aerospace. And we also have a program in Washington, D.C. that is focusing on government, global affairs, and international organizations. And it's called the Executive Master of Arts in Global Affairs and Management. And on top of that, we also have online program. Our online program is called Master of Leadership and Management. It's delivered in English, but also in Chinese. And that's to cater to the Chinese market in partnership with Sintana. And I see that the president of Sintana is here in the audience today. We, 2 years ago, also launched our doctoral program. We have a doctoral professional practice, and that is in global leadership and management. It's a program where we cater to people all over the world for working professionals who want to pursue a doctoral degree. And that degree is delivered in a very different modality, is via Zoom. So we call that ASU Sing. So these are all our programs, and they all have very common characteristics. Our programs are very applied in nature. For example, in our Master of Global Management program, we have students going all over the world to do consulting projects. It's a required component of the program. All right. It is the required component of our program, and we are very proud because our students go all over the world, consult with different companies, whether they are large companies or small and medium-sized companies or government organizations, non-profit organizations, providing them consulting. At the same time, provide students skills so that they can be career ready. So today, I want to emphasize one particular point of this Global Challenge Lab. And the Global Challenge Lab is something that any organizations could engage our students to do. So if you have a company, you have a challenge, it could be any kind of challenge. It could be, for example, digital transformation. You want to have students come up with a plan, or it could be a turnaround strategy, or it could be let's say, government initiative. We, for example, had one time a project in Vietnam where the Vietnam government wanted to have an eco-tourism plan. And our students went there and come up with a beautiful plan for them, right? And then we had, for example, Habitat for Humanity that want to build a digital platform for fundraising. Our students come up with a plan for them. So these are things that our students are doing all over the world. And if you have companies that you yourself, your company has a challenge that you like our students to work on, please contact us. We are very appreciative of any projects to help our students learn, but at the same time, the companies also benefit from it. Because some of the companies do tell us that the product that's produced by our company, by our students, some of them, they feel like this is something, a $50,000 project, they could have got a consulting firm to do. So with the degree, this is just what Thunderbird has, but we also have executive education. Executive education, we have 20+ open enrollment programs, short programs, and not only those open enrollment programs cover topics like digital transformation, AI, healthcare, or finance, or leadership, but we also have custom programs. And our custom programs are also very highly ranked. Our custom executive education program is ranked number 2 in the US and number 17 in the world. So definitely lots of different programs that if you have companies, you know of somebody else who want to have leadership training, and it's not only limited to leadership and management, I wanted to emphasize. Our executive education is also for different areas like smart cities, alternative energies, because we not only have programs at Thunderbird, but we also can leverage the whole ASU ecosystem to provide faculty expertise for the areas that you're interested in. So those are our programs that I want to talk about. The last thing I wanted to say is we have a Taiwan Symposium. I know all of you are very interested in semiconductor, that's why you're here. So Thunderbird is organizing a Taiwan Symposium on March 28. So March 28, and is free for the public. Please feel free to come. We will invite some scholars from Taiwan to come, but there are also local executives, for example, from TSMC, that will be coming here to give us the overview of the semiconductor industry. So the Taiwan Symposium will be on March 28, followed by, in the evening, there is a Taiwan night. That means there will be games and food and all the fun stuff from Taiwan, and that's in collaboration with the city of Phoenix. So welcome again, and enjoy the summit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the little bit of a distraction in the background. Thank you for changing the camera a little bit. And I think we'll hopefully solve that problem. And if you guys need to come up, that's great. Then I mentioned about this evening and kind of a special program that ASU is doing. And so we'd like to kick off the next segment around a little bit more ASU oriented. And we have Kyle Squires, who's the Senior Vice Provost, Dean and Professor at the Ira Fulton School of Engineering, and he'll be here with Matt Salmon, who's on the Global Chamber Advisory Board for Phoenix. And Matt Salmon, of course, is certainly well better known as a 5-time representative here in the state of Arizona, supporting the growth of Arizona in many different ways, including his speaking Chinese and being very aware of how important the world is to not just Arizona, but to the U.S. And the world. So gentlemen, would you mind coming up and let's hear a little bit more about what you're involved with. Matt, would you like to come up as well? Would you like to
Thank you very much, Doug. Actually, Kyle Squires is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. He's in the top 5. He and I actually did a trip to Taiwan together last summer, and we met with the newly elected president of Taiwan and their cabinet, and it was a very intimate meeting. And ASU is doing a lot more to step up our bilateral relationship with Taiwan and its universities. Given the fact that 92% of the most advanced semiconductors actually come out, for the whole world, come out of Taiwan, and about 54% of all semiconductors for the whole world come out of Taiwan. It's an incredibly important country. For as little as it is, it has an outsized influence, but Kyle is or Dean Squires is the head of the School of Engineering, the Fulton School of Engineering, and I was asking him before we got up where we're at with enrollment, 33,000. That's the size of most universities. Very, very, and Dean Squires, if you think about how busy Michael Crow is, it's a very, very close second because when you think of the number of students that he's responsible for, the well-being of, it amazes me that he gets as much done as he does. But he's truly an amazing person, and it's an honor to introduce him. And he'll let you know where ASU is headed on this crucial field of semiconductor research.
Great, thank you, Matt. I don't know, no, so I do have a couple ideas I wanted to organize and just acquaint you with. First of all, when you are in Arizona, you are in the most dynamic semiconductor cluster in this country. There's been more private investment here. There's been the largest capture of CHIPS Act funding for universities at ASU and other of our partner schools. So the action is here. And just to put a pin in that, that's more than $100 billion of investment since 2020. And you read about, you know, the TSMCs and the other big fabs, but there's a lot of, now guess what? They create their own weather. The supply chains, you know, become more robust. Other companies move in. You know, the other companies that sell to those other companies move in. And that's what we're seeing happen. So $100 billion of investment, 40 companies have expanded or relocated, and there's been over, to this point, 16,000 new jobs. And that will continue to grow. So a very dynamic ecosystem happening here with ASU trying to provide as much energy, as much partnership, and as much connection as we can. So we like to say we're ground zero for semiconductors. And what does that mean for ASU's role? So, you know, the dynamism is significant, but it starts with talent. As the dean of the largest college of engineering in the country, that gets us a lot of invitations, right? Companies are thinking about expanding, they're thinking about arriving, they're thinking about coming, whatever the case might be. Guess what? Every conversation starts and stops with talent. Workforce, how do we fill our needs, how do we address that? So we try to be good partners. We try to listen, and we try to produce the types of engineers, technologists, computer scientists, you name it, that will make a real impact. And because ASU is dedicated to an access mission, you know, it's easy to say that word, okay, access, but then you have to live it. An embodiment of ASU's commitment to access is an engineering college of 33,000 students. We are trying to really move the needle when it comes to engineering education in the United States. Last year, we graduated 7,400 students. That number will continue to increase. That's a real significant input to the talent pipeline here, you know, to the ecosystem and so forth. It starts with talent, programs. It starts with basically innovation. So my college has 8 schools, and one of the newer schools, it's called the School of Manufacturing Systems and Networks. That was started about 2.5 years ago, and that was a good example of ASU skating to where the puck is heading, right? You know, we know manufacturing, it's onshoring, it's becoming very modern, but we've built up a school, and when I say we, you know, with President Crow's support and with many others helping drive this, the future of manufacturing is the following. It's a combination of 3 things: making, automation, and AI. Manufacturing in the 21st century is not going to look like your mom and dad's manufacturing. This school is helping lead the way, helping show us what that looks like. It's about partnership. It's housed on our Poly campus, about 45 minutes to the east. New building coming out of the ground, intentionally open and designed to engage industry partners. So being a good listener also means bringing industry partners into the mix so that we're, again, meeting the need in workforce and otherwise. So a bit more about our college in just a couple of minutes that I have. 33,000 students, 77 degree programs, 600 faculty. So it's like a city. And it's significant, it's moving quickly, it's partnering, it's driving students, it's driving research attainment. Owing to CHIPS Act funding, there's been 3 major awards that ASU has won. Again, our faculty driving the ideas, partnering with companies and others. The starting point was, out of the $52 billion in the CHIPS Act, $2 billion was for the Department of Defense to create what's called the Microelectronics Commons. And the structure is this. It's 8 hubs located around the country, and think of those hubs as places to make things, to prototype. And it was a recognition that what has basically been blocking semiconductor innovation in the US is not necessarily money. Funding's always going to matter, but it was access to capabilities. Small companies, faculty, inventors can be very flexible, very creative on the bench, but they had no way to scale and begin to see if their ideas could prototype and reach a level of sophistication and evolution that companies on the other side would pull them through. So the valley of death was not necessarily a valley of death of funding. It was a valley of death of capabilities. These hubs are meant to close that gap. They're places with advanced tools and personnel and partners that allow small companies, others to come in and prototype, partner with us to really drive innovation. Now that's an interesting one because the end user, the customer, are the DoD primes, the Lockheeds, the Boeings, and so forth, so working very closely. So that was the first award. That's $150 million of direct funding. The ancillary impacts could be half a billion. The second one was one of the packaging awards through the CHIPS Act, in this case led by a really compelling industry partner, Deca Technologies, about microelectronics packaging, something else that's really resurging in the US. Again, us working together, understanding synergistic capabilities, pitching new ideas to the Commerce Department, and winning another $100 million award. In the research park, co-located in our Macro Technology Works facility, along with DECA. Then the third major award was the most recent, now a couple weeks old. That was an announcement by the Commerce Department to locate their pilot facility for advanced packaging in Arizona. Altogether, that could be upwards of a $3 billion investment over time, a facility, a building, again at the research park, that's basically a national lab. For all intents and purposes, this is a national lab, the first one in Arizona, that will allow government experimenting in manufacturing, innovation, advanced research, bringing in our faculty, and importantly, bringing in students. So when you think about what's happening in the semiconductor ecosystem, there's a lot of investment, but I will say this, the sustaining mechanism will be talent. It is the only way that these investments will be sustained, because why? The workforce to move into these companies, to keep strengthening them, starting new companies, doing advanced research. That's the ecosystem that is now created here. All the bits are here. All the bits are here, the people, the talent, the capabilities, the industry partners, and believe me, we are leaning in. The last one, I've talked about again, our university, our college, these awards at a national level, but what about workforce? It starts with workforce, it ends with workforce. We also are leaning into that in the following way, and here again, this is going to be about partnership. One is academic pathways, making sure we're creating within our current degree structures the pathways that our graduates will be well positioned for jobs in this industry. That's one that's constant, that always gets attention. The second, which has become a much more prominent part of our focus, is on professional skills. Frequently you'll hear upskilling or reskilling, but it matters now. The technology is moving way too fast. Okay, if you're not constantly reskilling in the network, you're going to be left behind. How do we contribute and lead to that? Standing up capabilities and access. Every time we have a new tool or new capability stood up, we should be training to it, allowing you all to use it, your employees and so forth. And then 3 more, K-12 engagement. It's ironic that in the semiconductor industry, some of the greatest companies in the world are largely unknown to young people. They're the companies just behind enabling the Amazons and the Googles and Facebook to really do some amazing things. But what do we do to build that pipeline to achieve greater workforce? Then partnerships, and finally faculty. They drive this, they move it forward. We continue to hire. You know, we have over 600 faculty, 400 are in the tenure track ranks doing a lot of research. That's where we are. So it's several years ago, I first met Matt when we were kicking around some basic ideas about what led to the Microelectronics Common Sub-Proposal that ASU, ultimately led and won. And it's, again, about bringing companies in, partnering with the government, both at the state level. There's so many bits here. But I would say this in closing. Large university, dedicated access, training workforce, driving advanced research, partnering with industry, working together closely with the government, that will be the secret sauce that brings brings Arizona to the fore. It really is the moment we've built these things that makes this workshop here even more compelling. So that's a kind of a rapid flyover, of what we are, but we really are in the middle of this. We much appreciate, again, the partnership. Thank you very much for the invitation, and with that, I'll pass the microphone back. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? And Matt, do you mind just kind of elaborating or further elaborating on what ASU is doing and anything also you'd like to say about Taiwan's involvement as well?
Well, as I mentioned before, the country of Taiwan is so integral to the success of TSMC. They literally bet the farm on semiconductor research, manufacturing, et al. About 25 years ago, and it panned out in an amazing way. And so, for our university, we're trying to do everything we can to be literally everything that TSMC needs. And as Kyle said, $100 billion invested in Arizona just in the last few years for semiconductor, the semiconductor industry is by itself an amazing thing. But I see it just as more to come, right, Kyle? I mean, it's going to be coming in waves and waves and waves. This has put Arizona on the map like nothing. I've lived here since I was 12 years old in 1970. We moved here from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And in my entire life, I've never seen anything in the economic development sphere that has been more impactful than this has. And so we actually have a person at ASU, Grace O'Sullivan, who a big part of her job is just trying to find out, what TSMC needs and to be one step ahead of the curve. Obviously, Dean Squires is working very, very closely with them to make sure that the kind of instruction that we're doing is specific to the needs that they have, and we're coordinating that all the time. But we see this as an incredible opportunity for Arizona to advance in so many different ways. And I think that the upshot of it is far beyond just the semiconductor industry. Because when you think about all the ancillary services and companies and vendors, that come along with them, and then those that supply them and help them, the trucking industry, it goes far and wide. And it's an exciting time, I think, to be in Arizona. And let me just say this, because the CHIPS Act, which to me was probably one of the most monumental things that Congress has done in the last decade. It's probably the only thing Congress has done in the last decade, if you ask me. But my big concern is that the current president of the United States is not a big fan. And that's what we've heard, right, Kyle? He's not a big fan of the CHIPS Act and has talked about clawing some of the money back. So please make sure that our congressional delegation, both Sinema and Kelly, were front and center when both co-sponsoring and doing the heavy lifting to get the CHIPS Act passed, which was a monumental thing. And honestly, we don't need to be retreating or retrenching on it. We need to be going to a CHIPS Act 2. It's that big of a deal. And not just for economic purposes in this country, but for national security reasons as well. I mean, China is constantly breathing down Taiwan's neck, and it's a fearful situation. And depending, on how some of the other global crises get rectified in the next while, China is taking note. And as you look at some of the things that we've done, and I'm not being critical, but I think you need to point out USAID, one of the generals, when I was in Congress, one of the top generals came to me and said, either put more resources into our diplomacy efforts, including USAID, or give us a lot more money for bombs. That, to me, was very, very frightening. You've also got to understand, I've probably been to China between 40 and 50 times. I lived in Taiwan for 2 years. I've seen that region of the world up close and personal, and I was the chairman of the Asia Pacific Committee, subcommittee on the House Foreign Affairs Committee for the whole country. And I can tell you unequivocally that China, through its Belt and Road Initiative, is incredibly involved in, I call them foreign aid type efforts across the globe. And when we pull out, they move in. And they build alliances that we're flushing down the toilet. And I'm very, very, very concerned about that. So I think that, you know, when it gets right down to it, we should make our voices very loudly heard with our delegation to let them know you can't give up on dealing with foreign affairs. It is incredibly important. Diplomacy is incredibly important, not just for national security, but also for economic issues. And I'll get off my soapbox, but Doug, thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk about what ASU is doing. I actually am a graduate of ASU, so is my wife and 3 of my kids. And so I kind of bleed maroon and gold. I'm very, very proud of the university. When I graduated from ASU in 1981, I think the graduation rate was 12%. It was known as the world's best party school. Michael Crow, who, by the way, has, I believe, the longest tenure of any university president in America. He's been there 23 years. Is it 23 or 22? 23 years as university president. He has transformed that place into 10 years running the most innovative university in America per U.S. News and World Report. As Kyle told you, we have the largest engineering school in America. His engineering school rivals the size of most large universities in the country. And we're trying to step up and do what we need to do to make everything work. And all that, you know, I started out as a state senator back in 1990. You know what portion of ASU's funding came from the state back in 1990? 75% of the funding for ASU came from the state. You know what it is today? 9%. We've figured out how to go out and do what we do without using taxpayer money. And I think that's pretty phenomenal, too. I think that's what we should want us to do. So thanks a lot, Doug.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kyle. Amazing progress from the #1 party school to the #1 innovation school in the world and the largest school in the United States. Semiconductors is an amazingly important, perhaps the most important market segment in the world today. How many of you read Chip Wars, the book? It's an amazing book. And it talks about, when you talk about bombs and military, the end of the Vietnam War. Semiconductors actually potentially could have won the war for the US, but the political winds had changed, and by then it was too late to continue. Semiconductors played a role then in terms of pinpointing bombs. We were just bombing. We had the firepower, but not the precision. Semiconductors started to begin to create the precision, and today it's all about AI, and it's all about other technologies that are going to be powered by semiconductors. So I was really happy and pleased that Robert Quinn agreed to speak at Global Chamber. He is a semiconductor expert. He's flown in from Texas. He's got a career in semiconductors, and he's going to give us about a 15-minute presentation on what's going on, probably a little bit of history, but also what's important about the semiconductor industry that we should know about. I haven't seen you yet, Robert, but I know you flew in. There you are. Yeah, I have seen you. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you. So we have the presentation slides that I did. Does the... Do you know if they are?
Jim, he's ready for his slides.
Okay, great. Okay. So I wanted to say thank you, everybody, for having me out today. Particularly, I would like to say thank you to Dr. Gupta with Infinia Labs for having me. He was sponsored me today to fly out to come and speak at the event. And Infinia Labs is a material science testing, and they do an incredible job with what they're doing. They're a local company here in the Phoenix area. Is there slide 1 available?
Hi, Jim. How are you? Jim is, there we go. Jim is on the Global Chamber team, and she is in Singapore. And she's been working for a number of hours, and she's hanging on for the next several hours and supporting this program. So thanks, Jim. We can see it.
Thank you so much. Okay, sorry. It looks like I may have gotten the wrong slide. I sent a couple of different slides, but we can just go with what we have. I sent another slide package, but that's okay. Well, my name is Robert Quinn. I am a semiconductor industry influencer, and I talk about semiconductor industry. I write on LinkedIn. I have about 11 million impressions a year on LinkedIn. I have about 60,000 followers and about 30,000 followers to my LinkedIn newsletter that I post. I ended up in this industry in a very odd way that many of the people in this room didn't come into the industry. I had a roommate, got a job at Applied Materials, and he said, dude, you would be so good at this job, you have to come and apply for a job here. Problem was, I was a high school dropout. I worked on cars, I worked on hot rods, but ended up going to apply for a job, got the job, Operation 100, found myself decided to pursue a career through semiconductor. My boss said, you have to go to college, I'm sorry. But so Applied Materials actually put me through school. And I ended up working and becoming a line lead in manufacturing and PVD. Went into chamber test, final tested different platforms. I final tested PVD, CVD, ALD, RTP, EPI, and so I have a great experience in working in the ecosystem of the semiconductor industry. And then I found myself in the field as a field engineer. It was quite an interesting career, being able to travel the world, see the different companies, work within all the different cultures and the organizations that support this industry. But most of all, I really enjoyed learning how this industry is just the forefront of all technology moving at us. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my education, where I came into this industry, because it wasn't the average. I wasn't the average person that came into this industry. But I did work, and I did have a great experience. I traveled the world. I got to see all the different fabs. I've worked at IBM, Texas Instruments, TI, most of the fabs in the U.S., and I've had an interesting career. With that, I started writing. I became an operations manager. I came home from traveling as a field engineer, took a senior engineering job at Samsung, and I ended up following into operations for a couple of small companies. Part of my day as an operations manager was to read the news and figure out what was going on in the industry. Well, so I just thought, there's a guy named Gary Vee on LinkedIn. He said, do something for others, ask for nothing in return, do it on a daily basis. I said, I'll take this challenge. So I started writing and talking about what I saw was interesting, somebody that's been in the industry for 20 years. And people really enjoyed listening to what I was writing about. I was quite amazed about that. The CEO, I was at a CEO roundtable in Munich, and I was listening to the CEO's talk, and somebody said, "What do you think about neuromorphic computing?" It was 7 of the world's largest CEOs in front of us, and every one of those CEOs looked at each other and said, "What's neuromorphic computing?" I said, "Oh my gosh, they don't speak our language." And so I instantly realized that you have to learn how to speak multiple languages. And I was able to speak, I was able to translate my knowledge and my experience into a language that could be understood not only by the CEO, but by my 6th grader. And so how do you speak a language that everybody can understand and everybody can understand what you're talking about? One of the things that reminded me when I was working in the fabs, I was always the guy that they called for the new college graduates. So they'd bring the new college graduates in the fab. I would meet them in the gowning room, and they would say, and so we'd gown them up, put them through the air shower, put them into the fab, and to see these kids' faces for the first time. You walk into the billion-dollar facility like Samsung, Intel, Global Foundries. It's just absolutely incredible to see these kids' faces for the first time when they walk into this fab. They're just in awe. And I enjoyed it so much, and touring these kids through the fab and saying, this is billion-dollar row, because this is $1 billion of equipment right here. Really enjoyed being able to see that inspiration and see that within the kids that were coming to work at the fab. So I started a nonprofit called SEMU, Semiconductor Industry Mobile Education Unit, where I had a vision of being able to bring a 52-foot semi, an 18-wheeler, to schools around the nation that would be able to give these kids a Disney World aha moment of, I learned what semiconductors are. And how cool would that be for those kids? And I was always imagining that if we could just have, capture that moment when I saw those kids walking in the fab for the first time and giving that to 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, all the way up to 12th grade, giving them that aha moment of inspiration, we would have kids beating down the door to come work in this industry. And so that was always my moment. So I have been working with University of Texas. There is a vision to build a 52-foot semi, an 18-wheeler that expands to 1,000 square feet that we can take to underprivileged schools. We can take to summits. We can take all over the nation, and being able to inspire the next generation of the workforce in the semiconductor industry. One of the things I always tell students whenever I'm working with students, and it's funny because I tell students and I tell CEOs the same story from 6th grade to all the way up to the CEO level. This equipment that we're working on, it pumps down to a vacuum of 10e to the -9 torr. That's space. That's close to deep space vacuum. We're injecting a plasma as hot as the surface of the sun. We're exciting the molecules inside of these chambers, and we're doing it processes like atomic layer deposition. We're stacking atoms to make transistors today. And today we're doing that at 3 nanometers. That's 21 atoms wide. So how do we speak a language and get people excited about what we're doing so that they can truly understand what we're doing as well, and getting them excited about this? I came into the industry, some of y'all came into the industry at a lot longer than I did. I came into the industry at a wafer size of 200 millimeter. Today, we're at 300 millimeter, and who knows, one day maybe we'll go into 450 millimeter. But the transistor size, we've gone from a single transistor, and we're currently shrinking that size of the transistor density and putting more transistors on a chip. But what happens after 1 nanometer? Where do we go? What changes in the semiconductor industry? Well, one of the things that changes is does Moore's law die? Well, no. In a sense, computational power. We'll start seeing things like 2D stacking, 3D stacking, edge AI, neuromorphic computing. A lot of a lot of changes within architecture and computational power, increasing that computational power for those chips. And so I enjoy talking about that and writing about that on LinkedIn. The transistor revolution of where we've gone, and from 1947, the first transistor that was created, and following Moore's law through all these years now. I enjoy also trying to put it in perspective of where we've gone from a single transistor to a chip, a wafer scale chip that has 2.6 trillion transistors and 850,000 cores. And just to put that into perspective of where we've gone from a single transistor to 2.6 trillion transistors and 850,000 cores that are stacking atoms. It's absolutely incredible where we've gone with this technology and how it's grown. And I enjoy talking about that to students and bringing that to the fruition of the people reading and trying to understand this industry. I was recently in Oman, and I was speaking to the royal family and the ministry of Oman. And one of my friends said before I went there, he said, "You don't educate royalty." So how do you teach them? How do you let them know what we're doing? Future technology, what's next? Edge AI. We're going to have all the artificial intelligence living on the edge. We're going to have neuromorphic computing. We're going to, what does all this mean? This also means more chips. We need more chips. We need more ability to produce more chips. And this is why I think we're seeing so many people from the president to all the way down thinking about how are we going to sustainably produce these chips, and how are we going to grow this industry with the right workforce. A lot of the issues that we're looking at massive workforce issues right now. We're doubling the size of the industry right now. There's average age, I think average senior age, this is different numbers that are coming out, but they say the average senior engineering age is close to 50 years old. So we're doubling the size of the industry. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are fixing to retire. How do we fill those gaps if we can't fill those pipelines in the students and putting them into the schools and getting these kids to come in to work in this industry? My vision with SEMU is to also start at 6th grade, getting these kids excited about this industry at 6th grade, pushing them through a pipeline all the way into 12th grade, and putting them through classes and learning about semiconductor engineering, and then allowing them to have that option to do OJT, like I did, on-the-job training, or go into higher education and connecting those kids with grants and scholarships and being able to pipeline them all the way back from 6th grade all the way back into having a career in the semiconductor industry. That's been my vision in trying to grow that nonprofit organization. Edge AI hardware is going to incredibly change everything. We are going to see a big need for chips because AI is going to require chips within the devices. So our phones will have to replace. Our computers will have to replace. Security-wise, we're going to have a lot of security that is going to live in hardware now. So we're going to have that hardware that supports that new technology that's coming in. We're moving at the speed of light today. We're moving data at the speed of light with photonics and an incredible, massively fast-growing sector of the industry. And then we have a mass financial infusions. The U.S., we're seeing fabs being built all over the U.S. Europe, we're building almost $100 billion of infrastructure going into Europe as well. The Stargate project just recently was announced. It's going to support a lot of data centers. We have a data center going up in Texas already. That's going to be, they're saying they're planning on spending close to $500 billion in the next 4 years with this project. So what does this mean? It means more chips. We need more chips to run these facilities and to run these data centers. one of the things I also talk a lot about whenever I write and talk about on LinkedIn is I always like to talk about the elephant in the room. And one of the things that I'm always talking about, the elephant in the room, is the rare earth magnets and the 90% share of rare earth magnets that are coming from China. And we need to be able to have a diversified ecosystem that is, we're able to not only, we're not only able to have diversified ecosystems, but we're able to produce this material so it's on a level playing field. Unfortunately, one of the things that happens right now is a lot of people are turning a blind eye to the pollution and the toxic waste that comes out of processing things like magnets. And so, how can we create a sustainable ecosystem and being able to have a supply chain that is not so. We look at two things. We look at chips, the amount of chips coming out of one location of the world, and things like magnets that are 90% coming out of China. How can we have that ecosystem more broadly diversified and not depending on just one section of the world? It leaves a lot of vulnerability, not only geopolitics, but natural disasters. There's just a lot of risk that is put into that. And how do we maintain our human capital? How do we make sure that we're sustainably building an infrastructure and for these next generation of people that are going to come into this industry? I love supporting the next world of the next age of workforce that's coming into the industry, and being a catalyst for that and helping them grow that. Lack of talent is going to be a major issue if we don't bring that to a head very soon. Just in closing, sustainable approaches. Let's build a sustainable workforce, a sustainable ecosystem of supply chains. Let's make sure that we're diversifying our. We're seeing EUV going up in Europe and in Ireland and Oregon and Ohio and now in Austin, in Arizona. This is great being able to see this technology growing in all different sectors of the world. Let's keep up the positive momentum, but at the same time, keeping an eye out for those pitfalls as well. So thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
What's your time? Okay. Robert will be around for tonight, and so if you're interested, we'll have the break at 3:30, and also we have the event tonight, so feel free to connect there. The Global Chamber members are extraordinary, and they're amazing, and I'd like to, I'll risk the audience around the world and walk back here to Mike Patterson of Spencer Fane, who's an extraordinary leader, extraordinary legal mind. He's so supportive and is a great example of the way the global tribe helps each other. He's just a great human being. And Mike is also an expert on the CHIPS Act. Mike, would you like to step up? And maybe you should come up to the front. Mike agreed for a few minutes to talk a little bit about what's going on with the CHIPS Act. Matt Salmon earlier mentioned that there's some issues and troubles, but we're going to make it through, aren't we?
We're going to make it. And I've been saying for last couple of years as I've represented people in town who are trying to get in on the CHIPS Act and be a part of it, that, hey, if you didn't directly file something with the CPO, with the CHIPS Act, it's okay. If you're a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer, or you're a construction company, this all trickles down. So all that money that Matt said that came into town, our last speaker as well, it's the boat's rising for everyone, the universities, everyone. So that's exciting for us, okay? And even if they claw back, as Thomas is going to tell us, the economic impact and what that has created is the train has left the station, okay? I don't care if Intel goes through a change, et cetera, and whatever news there might be, the demand is there, and it's making a difference in Phoenix, and we are the the belly button of the universe, as far as I'm concerned, for semicon. I wanted to say a little bit of an update. I've got 3 clients who are waiting on their applications for chips. I did, when this started, I jumped in. There weren't a lot of law firms that really wanted to work on this. Us and one other in town have done 4 webinars on this through GPEC. And there were 4 NOFOs, Notice of Funding Opportunities. The first one was for the really big boys, big boy companies, and we know who those are. And then the second one was for supply chain, but above a certain number of hundreds of millions, had to be a part of that. The third one, the fourth one was R&D, but the third one was something called a consortium approach. And they invited regional areas to put together teams of companies in supply chain below that were smaller dollar, but as a consortium, work on it. And there's a lot of excitement about this, and Sandra Watson announced, I didn't realize this, I knew that we were out in front on this, but Sandra Watson of the Commerce Authority said we were the only region in the country that actually put together a consortium. We had 19 companies that applied, and they were meeting together. I was going to all the meetings, et cetera, down at the Commerce Authority. Out of the 19, I believe 11, am I right on that, Thomas? 11 got picked by CHIPS to actually fill a real application. 2 of them are clients of mine. And today and tomorrow, the CHIPS Act is actually in Phoenix, going out, doing due diligence visits to some of these CHIPS Act applicants. And they're meeting with the Commerce Authority. What's the news? When are they going to get money? Well, there's some uncertainty. We have a new Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, and everybody has been saying, well, we got to wait till he gets in his seat and decisions are made. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks, those companies are going to hear up and down. Of course, we know that there is a lot of clawback noise in DC. However, this is maybe a priority where we're actually taking something away from China, where we're actually bringing this industry home. This fits with the model of the policies of, apparently, of this administration to let's bring this manufacturing home, right? So I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, that this is not going to result in clawback. In fact, as Matt said, let's do a CHIPS 2 right behind this. I hope Congress gets on that. The others that are not in the consortium, there's several other large supply chainers that are here in town, and I have one of those as a client as well. They've got their application in. They're expecting that within a month, they're going to hear as well. So there's some other big announcements, and these people have asked for, the smallest one has asked for $100 million. So it's, that kind of money coming into our economy helps everybody here. That bumps it up for everybody, the whole economy. Tariffs, if I could just say, I'm a lawyer, do a lot of international, and I have clients right now that are really sweating tariffs, and particularly in the automotive industry. Eduardo, I don't know where he is, but he and I were talking about how many times on average, a part, automotive part, goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth across the border. Canada, the US, Mexico, back, value added, in and out of Maquila and back, et cetera. And the statistic that I know and have heard batted around is that on average it's 7. That's certainly the number in the aerospace. I think in automotive comes close as well. What is a real uncertainty, as you're talking to your congressman and everything else, is if a tariff goes through at X, is that going to tax every time it crosses the border. In other words, 7 times on that piece before it goes in a steering wheel, before a wire harness ends up in a vehicle. That's a concern of mine as we're talking about these things right now, and we're looking for ways. I am a general corporate business lawyer. We're 600 attorneys in 29 cities from DC to California, and we have 51 lawyers in Phoenix. We do everything from intellectual property to corporate to contracts to labor and employment for people, for companies particularly from Asia and other places in the world that are coming here to get in on this action. I encourage all of them, form an entity, draw a little circle around your subsidiary in Arizona, and Arizona is a great place to incorporate LLC or corporation. You don't have to be Delaware, and then so that if the IRS comes calling to see which part of your international activity actually relates to the U.S., you can say, that right there, that's what it is, that LLC we formed, or the contracts that you do with everyone in this room. If there's a problem and a claim, let's make that stay right here in the U.S. and not go back to Taiwan or not go back to Japan and look at the mothership. Let's just keep it right here as we draw a circle. Limited liability, and then your intellectual property. Even though you got patents and trademarks somewhere else in the world, you really need to file your protection when you come here. It's not expensive. That's actually cheap, but then on the labor side as well. I said enough, Doug. I just want to say I'm a big fan of the Global Chamber. I was here the day we started. I did a couple of birthday cakes along the way when we celebrated anniversaries. I remember when we were one location, and that's right here. And now we're over, and our goal was this 500 and some odd, and I thought, gee, I hope that really happened. It did. It happened faster than we thought, and you're amazing. This guy right here, let's give him applause. He is the hub of the international wheel in Arizona. And I remember he has pumped this and beat this drum for so many years. I'm so glad to be a part of it, Doug. You really made it happen for a lot of us. Thank you.
Cut that guy's mic off. Thank you, Mike. We're going to shift now to Baker Hostetler, and is going to talk about export controls and compliance in the semiconductor industry. And Melissa Menino is on the Zoom call. Thank you all for being on the Zoom call. Thank you for participating globally. Melissa, are you there? Yay, you're there. We can't hear you, but we see you. That's great.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Is that
Okay,
better?
there we go.
That's much better. Yep,
Gotcha.
works well.
Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you, Doug, and thank you, Global Chamber. We're very excited to be here. We wish we were with you in person, but hopefully next year we can do that. And I think Michael just gave a very good segue for the things that we are going to talk about today. We're going to get a little bit more in the weeds about sort of semiconductor topics, export controls and compliance, talking about the Commerce Department and some tariffs as well. So we'll go to our next slide. So we're going to break it up into sort of two areas, outbound concerns and inbound concerns. And so we'll go to the next slide. So the first outbound concern we're going to talk about is sort of what is going to be the policy under this administration, particularly regarding export controls for semiconductors. And for, as you many may know, the U.S. Department of Commerce, their Bureau of Industry and Security issues and enforces the Export Administration Regulations, which are the regulations that cover all dual-use commercial technologies, commodities, or software, essentially anything that is not a defense article or especially designed for the military. As a very general rule. As Michael said, Howard Lutnick was just confirmed to be the next Secretary of the Department of Commerce. And what's really important in our world is, because James, again, we focus very much on international trade and national security issues, is that Howard Lutnick said in his Senate's confirmation hearing that he intends for enforcement of export controls to be the hallmark of his tenure. And we thought this was very interesting, one, because the Department of Commerce is a very large and diverse agency, and historically, and BIS is still a small part of it, but it has become a very mighty part of it. And so to have the secretary saying this sort of is one of the keys to his time at Commerce Department, I think sends a very clear signal about how important this area is to the government. And then the Bureau of Industry and Security, it's headed by 3 executives. The first is the undersecretary, and then there's 2 assistant secretaries, one on the export enforcement side and one on the export administration side, and they are all political appointees. And so they have named Jeffrey Kessler, I believe, has been nominated to be the undersecretary for BIS. He's a former import official under the Trump administration, has been in private practice, but now appears to be moving over to the export side. And then Landon Haid, who has been on the House Select Committee on China, has been nominated as Assistant Secretary for Commerce for Export Administration. So he will be reporting to Mr. Kessler, and he obviously has very strong thoughts on technology policy, particularly obviously in the AI sector, semiconductor manufacturing equipment, focused on China, but also other countries. And again, which countries and people are building alliances with China. And then, to the best of my knowledge, the Assistant Secretary for Export Enforcement, we are awaiting who that nomination is. But some very focused people so again, we think export controls, particularly and focus on semiconductor industry will continue to be a very prominent tool for this administration. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the Export Administration regulations, right, I think they cover exports from the U.S., they cover U.S. origin technology, commodity software, wherever located. But one of the things we wanted to highlight is really the extraterritorial reach of these regulations. Because again, I think enforcement is not only going to be against potential U.S. persons, but particularly foreign persons if the government thinks that they are creating an uneven playing field for U.S. companies. And so in the regulations, a foreign produced and foreign designed semiconductor that has never entered the US could still be subject to licensing requirements under the Export Administration regulations. It's really a very aggressive position, and there's currently 11 different foreign direct product rules in the Export Administration regulations. In addition, if you have foreign produced design goods that contain more than a de minimis amount of controlled US content, they can also be subject to US export controls. And US and foreign persons must apply with these regulations the same, because the jurisdiction is based upon the technology, commodity, or software. And so very important, strict liability for violations. You can be penalized on a strict liability basis. So the theory is, why do US and foreign persons need to comply? Because you can be subject to monetary penalties, and particularly for foreign persons, BIS can put you on a sanctioned persons list, such as the entity list or list
Để
of
cho em
denied
có cái
person,
Yêu mà.
without notice or an opportunity to be heard. And so I think if you're dealing with foreign parties, or they say, well, this isn't going to apply to us, we'll never get caught, or we don't need to focus on this, that is, I think that would not be correct, because they can easily be sanctioned without notice and opportunity to be heard. We have also heard that there's currently a licensing hold. So if you are applying for an export license or other authorization from BIS, we heard all new applications are hold pending sort of the new administration coming in. Don't have 100% confirmation on that, but it sounds like if there's a clear precedent for approval, they may approve it, but I think it's going to be a very slow process going forward. Next slide. And the other sort of outbound issue we wanted to highlight for you is the new outbound investment security program that became effective in January. It's a U.S. government interagency committee chaired by the U.S. Department of Treasury. It has jurisdiction over certain investments by a U.S. person, U.S. entity, or certain foreign investors that involve a person of a country of concern in select sectors. And a transaction can be notifiable under the program, or it can be prohibited. And this is all a self-governing program. The countries of concern are currently limited to China, Hong Kong, and Macau. But I think what is very important here is that when you look at what a country of concern is, or who the person is, if you have a Chinese controlled entity in a location outside China, including in the US potentially, that could be covered in this. So if you are making an investment, US person making an investment into a company, you really need to do your diligence, particularly, right, because semiconductors is one of the covered fields. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to James to speak a little bit more about the inbound and tariff issues.
Thank you, Melissa. There's a lot of moving parts. I think that's, kind of one of the big focal points here, both on the inbound and outbound side, is that for the semiconductor industry and, general U.S. businesses, there's a lot of moving parts. And so one of those moving parts is kind of an outline in the Trump administration's America's First Trade Policy memo is what exactly is the administration going to be focusing on. So, of course, we know trade tariffs, we know fair and balanced trade, but it is all very U.S. centric. So in some senses, good for U.S. businesses competing globally. But for those who are making intermediate goods, who are importing goods in the U.S., not necessarily the best of things. So one of the things in the American First Trade Policy I wanted to really kind of focus in on is the reciprocal nature of U.S. trade balance. So if there are unfair trade balances, or if there's a perceived disadvantage for U.S. companies, I think that's one of the things that the administration is really going to be focusing on, and it's directing these federal agencies, including the Department of Commerce, Treasury, USTR, and various others, to take a look at these trade agreements like USMCA and so forth, to be able to tell whether or not should there be certain retaliatory actions taken. So tariffs is the first one that comes to mind, but there may be other type of actions that may be considered at the table. Next slide, please. And this is where the kind of the second memo came out on February 13th, 2025. It's the reciprocal trade and tariffs memo. And this one is really crucial because it is really directing Department of Commerce, USTR, to review kind of a one-to-one parity trade relations with countries such as Vietnam, Brazil, all of our major trading partners, and determine whether there's non-tariff barriers, if there's some unfair imbalance that's happening. And so that may lead to certain investigations. And one I really want to highlight that actually occurred before this and is really particular to the semiconductor industry is China's acts and policies and practices related to the targeting of the semiconductor industry for dominance. So this was actually initiated an investigation, a Section 301 investigation back in December of 2024. I believe written comments on the scope and kind of what is to unfold from the investigation at the USTR was due February 5th. Hearings, I believe, are March 5th, March 6th of this year that are supposed to occur. So stay tuned in to see what happens with that. One thing I will note, kind of coinciding with this ongoing investigation by USTR, and particularly kind of the scope of it right now, is not really formed, but this is where kind of these hearings, the comments will inform USTR what path it will take. It may take a very similar path to the original and ongoing Section 301 additional duties on Chinese goods, Hong Kong goods as well, but it may go a little bit step further. And so it may result in other actions other than just tariffs, such as forced labor under Section 307, or anti-dumping duties. It's kind of out in the open for right now, but certainly something to monitor for the semiconductor industry. And one thing I'll highlight with that too is importers. Actually, there was a report done by the Bureau of Industry and Security, BIS, as Melissa mentioned earlier. And according to a kind of a report of advanced node, mature nodes survey, apparently 44% of importers of semiconductor chips and so forth are unaware of whether or not their chips are from the PRC. And so, when you're taking that data and that statistic and you're looking at these investigations that are ongoing and how that may impact you as, industry here in the US, it may be very broad, and kind of time will be, time will tell on that. But I think it's certainly something to watch from the import side as coinciding with the export enforcement. The main message, I think, from the administration is going to be a heavy focus on China and in industries that we compete in, and one of those is the semiconductor industry. Next slide, please. And then I'll turn it over to Melissa, just give a little shout out about our firm and what we do. I appreciate everyone for your time. Thank you.
Great, and thank you again to Global Chamber and Doug. This is great. And just for those of you who don't know Baker Hostetler, we are a national law firm with about 17 different offices across the country. We're a full service law firm, and we advise a lot of companies in the semiconductor space and in the supply chain, whether they are onshoring into the US, where we're uniquely suited. We can provide immigration services, tax services, employment services, international trade. So, being a full service law firm, we can do that. And we have a bunch of people that have worked priorly in the government agencies as well, is in house. So, any questions? We obviously we'd be happy to answer them. And thank you again.
Melissa, thank you. Round of applause, please. The main thing we do at Global Chamber is connect members to clients anywhere in the world, and that trust is really important in being a trusted advisor, and our members are trusted leaders all over the world in 525 chapters. One of the things that's also very important to us, for better or for worse, is that we have big companies as members of Global Chamber who don't need the kind of help that small and medium-sized companies do, and the SMEs, who are often looking for clients. I remember the day I left DuPont, and I felt almost naked because I had existed with this DuPont oval on my forehead, and anybody wanted to meet me. My son-in-law has been reporting to Elon Musk the last several years, and he doesn't understand why, hey, anybody will meet with me. It's like, well, yeah, you report to Elon Musk, so everybody wants to talk to you. But if you're a small and medium-sized company, it's not the same thing. So for us, the connection between big companies and small companies, I think, is important. And so Plug and Play is a great example of an organization that's global, like Global Chamber, that looks to connect big companies that have the finances and the financial wherewithal, not always the innovation. Small and medium-sized companies often have the innovation and not necessarily the financial ability to take things to the next level. So Dean Sims is here from Plug and Play, and he's got a couple or three companies from Arizona that we'd like to spotlight that are in the semicon that give you at least a flavor and a taste of what Arizona has to offer. Dean.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug. So we did a little switcheroo on you last minute to keep it interesting, but I'm Dave Corsaro. I do partnerships with Plug and Play here in the Arizona office. And Doug, you said it greatly what we do. Just to dig a little bit further, especially why you hear there's a partnership guy at a venture capital firm talking right now, is Plug and Play, we are by foundation a VC firm. We do about 200 to 300 investments a year. So PitchBook has ranked us one of the most active VCs globally. With about 2,300 startups in our portfolio and about 30 plus unicorns in our to date. Oh, cool! Our slides are coming up. Go next slide. Oh, yes, the clicker. Perfect. But anyways, as we get this going on, outside the venture capital investing arm, we do have one of the largest corporate innovation platforms in the world. So we work with over 550 plus of the world's largest corporations like Mercedes-Benz, Visa, Shell, and we help those large corporations meet these innovative young startups that we either are looking to invest in and that we do invest in, or we just connected and took note that it works well for some of our corporate partners. So for example, Mercedes-Benz, we've been working with them for almost 8 years now. We've implemented about 80 pilot programs within across all of Mercedes-Benz, and we helped them expand into the EV market by reducing their R&D process from 5 years to a year and a half by just 5 startup introductions. And then we're also a global accelerator program. So we're headquarters in Silicon Valley. We have 60 offices around the world. Each office is industry specific based off on the market needs. So for example, in Stuttgart, Germany, where we're partnered with Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, Bosch, and 30 other OEM suppliers. That's very automotive and mobility. And then here in Arizona, we are focusing on advanced manufacturing and sustainability. And I'll see if you can go to the next slide. Next slide. And so we launched our program in partnership with the Arizona Commerce Authority in April of 2023 on advanced manufacturing. Our partners are Intel, and Honeywell, and Raytheon. And then NXP Semiconductor actually expanded our partnership with them in Europe into Arizona. And we've been focusing a lot on aerospace, semiconductors, advanced materials, supply chain. And then we launched our sustainability program last May as well. Then I'll click on the next slide here. And this is a really great example. Please forgive the formatting changes a little bit. But Intel, we do a lot of how we connect the startups to our corporate partners. We do a lot of those one-on-one introductions and one-on-one meetings, but we also try to curate a lot of events to help, really help startups get as much exposure as possible. So we did partner with Intel last year to do a feature of AI in the semiconductor space. It was really amazing that Intel actually wanted us to do this segment at one of their large conference called Intel Vision. That they brought in about 1,000 of their suppliers and partner network into here in Phoenix, Arizona. We helped with some of their keynote speakers. You can see Dr. Crow from ASU and Pat Gelsinger on stage. And then we moved the segment into a more private, intimate space, about 40 people, where we invited 14 startups focusing on AI across robotics automation, supply chain, sustainability, workforce, all present not to Intel executives, but Intel really embraced the open innovation ecosystem that we provide in our culture, and they allow us to invite our industry partners like Standard Industries, ST Micro, the CIO came out from Italy, and then Microchip, and so on. So we do about 800 events a year across all of our offices, and then we will be participating in Semicon West here in October. So we'll be bringing our ecosystem and our curated content as part of the sessions during Semicon West. So we're really excited about that. So enough about plug and play. We do have 2 Arizona startups from our batch companies here to present, Crystal Sonic and Denstic ID. So I want to give them a chance to tell you a little bit more about their technology, focusing on the semiconductor industry. But I'll be here after during the break. So if you have any questions or want to connect, please let me know. And I'll invite Crystal Sonic to come up first and say a few words.
Thank you, Dave and Dean, for the invitation to speak. Thanks, everybody, for being here. My name is Arno. I'm CEO and one of the co-founders of Crystal Sonic. We're about an 8-minute walk that way on the bioscience campus. We're the weird semiconductor people squatting there for the moment. I got to say, our work with Plug and Play has been fantastic. They're an extremely active group and have introduced us to a lot of companies. So I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about what we do. We're very much the tip of the spear, kind of in the R&D world. We're tackling a real challenging problem that's pervasive in the semiconductor manufacturing industry. A little bit about us before I get into that. So we came out of ASU. So we were born out of an idea out of my wife's head, crazy idea about a handful of years ago, to use sound to split wafers. And you would think, why would you ever want to do that? We formed the company. We're based now a couple blocks this way, a team of 7. Being at the Global Chamber, we're a very kind of global organization as well, even though we're a small local team. We have people originally from Argentina, from Spain, from England, from India, Germany as well. So we're very interconnected culturally. And so our technology at Crystal Sonic is known as sonic liftoff. And I mentioned this problem we're tackling. So every single chip that's been talked about today, it's got to start somewhere. It starts at the wafer level. So everybody knows here what a wafer is. You might not know that those wafers, you waste about 95% of that precious material. So a boule of silicon is about as tall as I am, not quite as wide or round as I am, but pretty close. And it's a perfect crystal, essentially. Perfect single crystal of silicon. It turns out when they cut that up and then when they deposit and put the circuitry on top and process that wafer, and then they thin that to go into packaging, you end up wasting the vast majority of that precious material. Now, economically, for silicon, it doesn't matter too much. Literally, it's ground away, it goes into dust. For advanced chips, those based on other materials, they're known as compound semiconductors. These are things like silicon carbide, gallium nitride, even diamond, lithium niobate, all of the technologies that really power electrification, so power electronics, sensors, think LiDAR sensors, photonics chips, RF communications devices. All of these are emerging and displacing silicon in various areas, not in the logic space, but for a lot of advanced applications are rapidly emerging. And it turns out those materials take up about half the bill of materials cost to produce a chip. It varies, but it is the single largest cost. And you waste 95% of that. So what we do at Crystal Sonic in our sonic liftoff technology is we use an acoustic process where we can split a thin layer and we can reuse that material. And so again, this is a homegrown technology that we invented and we continue to develop here, just up the road. I just wanted a couple of final things before I wrap up what we've been up to lately. So we're partnering with a number of companies around the world, Japan, US, Europe as well, doing a number of pilot programs. We've been supported through SBIR grants and others from NASA, the NSF, but also, and DOE, but also locally with the Partnership for Economic Innovation and the Arizona Commerce Authority and their applied research program, which was essential for us. Got some good news coming up very soon. We got 2 new awards that we're about to announce. Not quite ready to say so, but we're going to be moving into some other materials and have a lot of momentum behind us. We got highlighted at, those of you who know Lam Research, we won their startup competition this past year, had about 70 semiconductor hardware companies from around the world competing for that spot. We were fortunate to win that competition, got a lot of exposure, and we also won the NSTC pitch competition as well later in the year, toward the end of the year in Washington, D.C. So we got a lot of momentum behind us. The mayor and the city of Phoenix invited us to come out to CES last month as well, which was fantastic, and we kicked off a new program with NASA on working on silicon carbide recently. So we're really excited on what we're doing. We're tackling it. It's a very difficult problem, but we're getting a lot of traction and excited to see what the next year and the next years bring. So thanks a lot. Michael, you're up.
Thank you very much. Actually, I wouldn't worry about the slides. I can just vamp it here. Hello, I'm Michael Kozicki. I'm representing DenSec ID. I'm also here to kind of depress you all a little bit because we have a big problem in the semiconductor industry, and the problem is there's a lot of fake chips out there, unfortunately. Conservatively, it's a $10 billion a year hit to the industry, and thank you very much. It's certainly a few percent of all the chips produced in the world end up being fake in some way. I mean, what does fake mean? Remarked. So a chip that's been basically remarked to look a lot better, a lot younger, a lot smarter than it really is. Chips that have been produced in substandard facilities, so they fail early. Or chips, worse, that have been designed to have Trojans built in to take over your systems. This is really very, very scary, to say the least. There's also a major problem in that chips cause fatalities. These fake chips appear in the most secure supply chains imaginable, you know, in the DoD, and we're having a hell of a job getting them out. The real problem, as far as we're concerned, is this. This is just way too easy to forge. The markings you see on chips, or the way that we identify them, just way too easy to forge. And in many respects, it is the kind of weak link. So we've come up with a solution. It's basically a trust mark that goes on every chip. It's called the dendritic identifier. It's quite a remarkable little thing because it's really, really simple to make. It's made using a stamping process, using off-the-shelf materials, very inexpensive materials, and a very inexpensive process. Every time you make one of these guys, it's unique, kind of like the snowflake analogy, where this thing is different every time you make it, so we have a unique identifier, like a unique fingerprint, every time you put it on a chip. It's also easy for computers to read it. It's what we call machine readable, just because of its geometry. And last not least, it's extremely secure. These things are very difficult to copy, very difficult to tamper because of the way that we mix the materials. We have this proprietary mix. So basically, we're giving every chip its own unique fingerprint. DENSEC is, like Crystal Sonic, is a spin-out from ASU, which is very exciting. We're moving forward with help from ASU. We will be involved in some of these big packaging efforts that are going on there. We actually came out of, originally from funding from, believe it or not, the USDA, of all places. We spent the first few years of our existence working with Toyota in manufacturing, and about the last year we've been concentrating on the semiconductor side of things. But I have a very strange life, and this technology does seem to be one of these kind of universal technologies. In fact, I have to head off in a few hours to jump in a plane to Scotland. We're kicking off a project with one of the big blockchain companies to apply this technology, believe it or not, in the North Atlantic salmon industry, which sounds very bizarre. So before anybody gets there, yes, we go all the way from fish to chips. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dave, was there anybody else? Okay, well, let's keep moving on. So it's GPEC and Thomas. Where are you? Oh, there you are, right in front. Greater Phoenix Economic Council is over year after year recognized as a leading organization on economic development. I'm sure you might mention an award or two, but from Barry Broom days all the way through Chris Camacho days, extraordinary leadership. Look, we'd like to learn a little bit more about your thoughts around semiconductor.
Doug, thank you. And I think we might be a little bit short of time, so I'm going to cruise through this a little bit. But nice to meet you all. Thomas Maynard with GPEC. Quick commercial on GPEC. That stands for the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. We represent the 22 cities and towns that make up metropolitan Phoenix. We also have, give or take, 200 private sector companies that are members of our organization. I see some in the room here. Hi, Kim. Hi, Mark. How's it going? And I know ASU as well. So we can't do what we do without our members, so thank you for being here. And our job is quite simply to help grow our economy by attracting companies to our market. We talked a lot about this point of what is semiconductors in Greater Phoenix. So just a few key takeaways. I won't belabor the point. Everyone knows about the big manufacturers that are here. Greater Phoenix, Arizona is by far the #1 market domestically for the large-scale manufacturer of chips. So Intel, TSMC, Amkor, which is building the facility in Peoria, breaking ground later this year. Dean Squires mentioned earlier the NatCast facility. So just to double-click on that, what that means for all of us in this room is that not only are we the leaders from a large-scale manufacturing perspective for the semiconductor ecosystem. Now we have this flagship R&D opportunity. So now we can really start to build out the cool and new startups within this industry ecosystem. Well-timed, the plug and play was right here. With our partners at the Arizona Commerce Authority, having someone like plug and play in our market to really spur that as well. Makes this even more of a case of why we're going to see this continue to be a growth factor for Arizona and for Greater Phoenix. So we had 2 great startups here. I would imagine if we do this in a year or 2 years down the road, we're going to see more and more startups that are based here in Arizona spinning out and growing into the next big semiconductor company. So this is what everyone needs to know. That not only we are the #1 market in the U.S. for building and manufacturing at a large scale, but we are going to be the #1 market for actually growing and building companies here as well. I will end, and I know we'll move on the program with, and it was already mentioned a couple of times, Dave mentioned it as well, Semicon West is going to be here first week of October, a couple blocks away. For the last 50 years, Semicon West has been in San Francisco. They said, hey, you know what? We've done this enough. Let's try to do this in Phoenix. So this is our time to shine. So if you are based here in Arizona, please go. If you're not based in Arizona, even more so, please, one, book your hotel room because those are going to be filling up fast, and we hope to see you there. So October 7th through the 9th, right here in downtown Phoenix, just a couple blocks down the road. Come talk to me afterwards because we're also starting to build out our programming and our schedules for that week. And if your international companies are looking to make a U.S. investment, one, you should do it right here in Arizona. We're going to have some special programming during that week, probably about the Monday of that. So stay tuned. Happy to chat more. But with that, I know we're behind on time. So Doug, I'm just going to turn it over to you to keep going. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Besides the leadership of Greater Phoenix Economic Council, Mayor Gallego is here. She'll hopefully be here later to speak with Stan Shi, and we have a video in the meantime. Please go ahead, Jim. Jim, the mayor.
Yes, okay.
Sorry to there you go. Got it.
Good afternoon, I'm Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego. I'm so pleased to be back with the Global Chamber. I hope you know what a fan I am of the work you're doing. So Doug, thank you for inviting me to join this meeting and for the partnership we've had throughout the year. Doug and I were just at the Consumer Electronics Show celebrating some of our great collaborations with South Korean companies. We have companies from semiconductors to advanced aviation vehicles from South Korea in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's exciting to celebrate that progress. Since we last convened, we made the news we have long been expecting. There are now 2 places in the world where the most advanced semiconductors are made, Taiwan and Phoenix, Arizona. That's thanks to TSMC's incredible $65 billion investment in the city of Phoenix. The investment is changing the face of our city, whether it's the more than 20 suppliers that have come just to Phoenix for TSMC's great business supply chain, or the better restaurants. Our dumpling scene is getting better. We have a fabulous new sushi place that is supporting TSMC and some of our great Japanese partners in semiconductors. We are seeing increased flight traffic and new flights to international destinations. We are also staying in touch with longtime partners. It's such a pleasure that today's keynote is a longtime friend of Thunderbird and a great business leader, and we so appreciate that partnership. Close to Thunderbird, we are announcing a new location where ASU will build a medical school with advanced medical training for doctors and nurses, helping us address the physician shortage, but also making sure that the most advanced medical sciences companies know that Phoenix, Arizona is a leader in innovation and has a one-of-a-kind investment in advanced science. So much is happening here on a global nature. We regularly welcome delegations from all over the world, whether it be 4 different states in Mexico that visited us around semiconductors, or the incredible amount of European delegations that come here for a variety of different investments, from sustainability and clean tech to semiconductors or advanced vehicles and aviation. It's been fabulous building this more globally connected economy with you, and I can't wait to see what we do next. Thank you.
And hope to see Mayor Gallego later in the program. Sorry about the time delay there. It was actually from on Zoom through Singapore all the way back to Phoenix. So there was, I think we saw the limits of technology on that one. Our next speaker is from Texas. You might have heard that Texas is kind of in play in the semiconductor industry. And so our next speaker, Jem, if we'd call him up, that would be awesome. Drew Sheberly is the Senior Advisor Reshore Supply Chain of the Texas Association of Business. Some of you may know his boss, a fellow named Glenn Hammer, thank you. Glenn and I actually went to the same elementary school in Westchester County, New York, Yorktown Heights Brookside Elementary, a few years different. He ended up running the Arizona the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry, right? For many years, very successfully. He's now doing a similar role in Texas. Boo for Arizona, but congratulations to him in Texas. And Drew, you're up next. Let's hear a little bit about Texas and semicon. Drew, are you there?
Hi, Doug. I don't see Drew right now.
Oh, okay. I see someone there. Who is that? Someone in a red or orange shirt. Looks very Texan.
It's Robert.
Oh no,
McCullough.
that's Bob. That's Bob. Okay. Okay, well, let's switch over to Bob then. So Bob McCullough, the International Business Development of Loudoun County, he'll be presenting on the East Coast and the semiconductor. Loudoun County is outside Baltimore, Washington. Bob, hello. You have a very bright shirt, a very bright tie. You look very Texan, but you actually are in Virginia. Please let us know more. And we can't hear you.
How many times have we done that during COVID and after, right? Yeah, my Texas years must have stuck with me. I went to college at Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas.
You look very Texan today. Congratulations.
Thank you. All right. For those of you wondering, where's Loudoun County? We are right outside of Baltimore, like Doug said, in Northern Virginia. The Washington Monument is 22 miles from where I'm standing right now. So Washington and the defense contracting industry is very much a part of Loudoun. What we're most famous for are data centers. Next slide, please. Here are targeted clusters. The data centers, there's nobody in the world, no place in the world that has more data centers than Loudoun County. The last number I saw, we were up to 35 million square feet of data center space. There's an area called Metropolitan Area East, May East. That's us. Metropolitan Ethernet West is Silicon Valley. Pretty much every time you hit enter on your computer, traffic's going through Loudoun County or Silicon Valley. We estimate that over 75% of the world's internet traffic comes through Loudoun every single day. One of the reasons I was so excited to speak today is because the semiconductors that everybody's talking about putting chips in and everything are actually a driving force in our data centers. What they do is they enable data centers to process and store data very quickly and precisely. Next slide, please. So the chips process data by calculating billions of results per second. That's not an exaggeration, billions of results per second. The Google CTO was here a couple of years ago and talked to people about why Google now has 3 data centers in Loudoun County. Traffic travels, ready? 1,000 times faster in Loudoun County than it does national average, 1,000 times faster. It allows data centers to handle very large volumes of data, very complex tasks, very, very quickly. To say that we're number one in the world is to understate it, really. There's nowhere else that even comes close. The reason for that is that when the people were catching on to the internet in the 1990s, AOL and WorldCom, it was called at the time, were the godfather businesses of the internet. And so when the rest of the world was catching up to it, we were already there. We already had the fiber, the power, and the water to cool down the equipment. And so data centers feed upon data centers, one after another after another. And that's why I think we're very related to your semiconductor industry. The memory stores the digital data in devices like computer memory, your phone. I'm sure everybody here has a phone where you store data, pictures, etc. It's stored somewhere here in Loudoun County. Next slide, please. Now, everybody can relate to money. The data centers just provide so much investment. What you're seeing here is latest available data. Just in fiscal year 23, we added 10 billion in new investment. We're a county of 430,000 people. For a county our size to add 10 billion new investment dollars in one fiscal year is pretty much a record. Next slide, please. Now, consequently, what happens is that your tax revenue goes up. Data centers are rather unique in a property tax because you tax not only the real estate, but the computer equipment inside the building is also taxed. And there are a lot of servers in these data centers. So they really are kind of a cash cow to anybody who has them. And we have more than anybody. Our tax revenue is up to, gosh, I think we make, I think the current number is just over $800 million a year. Repeat, $800 million a year in tax revenue just from the data centers. Next slide, please. Okay, this it's actually a video. I was just going to show the picture, but 25 years ago, where I'm sitting right now, was a horse farm and a sod farm. And in just 25 years, the whole area of Ashburn in Loudoun County has transformed into Data Center Alley. So your semiconductor industry certainly has made a difference for us here in Loudoun. Next slide. And now that I'm done with this slide, now the picture appears. So you can see from that just being grass in 25 years, that's what's developed here in Ashburn, Virginia. Okay, next slide, please. And I put my name and email in the chat. If anybody has any question, this is our group. Everybody from, I'm the international guy, Buddy in the upper left is the data center guy. And we have cybersecurity, we have aviation, we have agriculture, you name it. We're all here to help you. So feel free to get in touch with me if you need anything. And thank you, Doug, for having me present today.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. And we're starting to get a little bit back on schedule. So now we're going to go to Chihuahua, Mexico. Those of you know that not just in semicon, but Mexico plays a key role in manufacturing for North America. USMCA and NAFTA before that has driven through lower tariffs and all the things that are good for trade, allowed great partnerships between the US and Mexico. And Chihuahua is a great partner. I'm not sure exactly, I think it's going to be Zoom call first. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here today at the 4th Annual Semiconductor Summit. I had the honor to be there last year. Today, I'm joining, as you can see, remotely via Zoom. So many thanks for the Global Chamber for hosting this event. On behalf of our Governor Maru Campus, she sends you the warmest greetings. We also reaffirm our commitment to continue working on this key industry. As Undersecretary of Industry for the state of Chihuahua, I have seen firsthand how collaboration drives growth and innovation. Our region plays a key role in North America's semiconductor ecosystem, and we are committed to strengthening the partnerships that enhance supply chain and technology advancements. So my name is Fernando Alba, and as I mentioned before, I'm Undersecretary of Industry, Energy and Mining for the state of Chihuahua. So I guess we have a presentation for today. So I'll be, thank you. So yes, thanks a lot. So basically, I will say that our state is emerging as a player, as a key player in the semiconductor industry. The tech scene and the favorable business environment is poised to become a prominent semiconductor hub. Next one, please. Very briefly, I'll mention some of the hard data of our state. Right now, last year, we received around $2 billion in foreign investment. We have almost 500 companies, IMEX companies or manufacturing companies from all over the world here in our state. We have over 440,000 employees in manufacturing, more than 50 industrial parks, and more than 1,000 hectares in new developments are in process right now here in Chihuahua. And maybe some of you know, we have over 50 years of manufacturing experience. Next one, please. Our state is the #1 exporter to the U.S. From 2016 to 2023, we have almost doubled the level of exports to the U.S. We continue to see a favorable trend of exports, mainly right now, electronics and automotive products. So as I said before, right now, for the 15th year in a row, the state of Chihuahua is the #1 exporter of the country of Mexico to the U.S. Next one, please. We also have the largest shared border with the U.S. We have 6 border crossings. Some of them already going through infrastructure improvements. So our goal is to keep continuing the development of the infrastructure required to remain the #1 exporter to the U.S. The next one, please. As you can see on this slide and the next one, our state is basically in the middle of the U.S. So we are around 8 hours away from Phoenix and 8 hours away from Austin, where we are seeing the epicenter of the semiconductor industry in the U.S. There are several highways that go north to south, east to west, that are actually used, let's say, to ship all of our goods from Mexico, from Chihuahua to the U.S. Next one, please. Our key areas of focus for industry are automobility, aerospace, electronics, and medical devices. Next one, please. I guess yes. There was a previous one. I will say, is this slide number 6? Maybe you can just put it on the screen, please. Number 6, yes. 6, then 7 is the next one. Thank you. So I'll go briefly through some of our industries and our numbers. Right now, we have quite a lot of automotive companies located here in our state. Global names that are recognized by some of you. Right now, we have 2 OEMs operating here in the state, more than 150 suppliers. The first place in the whole of Mexico in automotive employment, and over 172,000 employees actually working on the automotive sector here in Chihuahua. Next one, please. This is a map of the kind of goods, products that we are assembling for cars. So we are from electric systems to die casting, transmissions, control centers, powertrains for electric cars. So a whole lot of different products that go into cars to all over the world. Next one, please. On the aerospace sector is our second largest industry in our state. We have recognized names as Bombardier, Honeywell, Textron, JKN, and Bell. Right now here in Chihuahua, we are assembling the Bell helicopter, the 429. Almost, well, I would say all of the wiring for the Airbuses, A320s, 30s, 40s, and also for the family of Boeing aircraft like the 777, 787, and the, I would say, and some others airplanes here. So we have 5 OEMs, over 45 suppliers, 9 universities with aerospace programs, and over 20,000 employees working on the aerospace sector. Next one, please. We see the future of our industry here in Chihuahua in advanced manufacturing, medical devices, e-mobility, everything related to eVTOLs and semiconductors. We are working in several smart specialization strategies that are transforming our economy through innovation, talent, technology, and collaboration. Next one, please. I will say that I was saying at the beginning of my presentation that Chihuahua is growing in the semiconductor industry, even though we are at the last tenth of the process. So some global companies are making a huge investment here in our state, and obviously they are contributing to a robust ecosystem. Also, we are supporting startup ventures focused on the semiconductor industry, which are fostering innovation and competition in the industry. Next one, please. Some of the companies established here in Chihuahua are global players like Foxconn, Jabil, Pegatron, Wistron, Inventec, Cisco, Epson, Flex, Honeywell, Siemens, and WinWin. More than 20 companies here locally are assembling computers, servers, high-end computing equipment, over 160 companies on the electronics industry, and over 121,000 employees in this sector. I will say that the state of Chihuahua it continues to be the #1 importer of chips into our country. As I said before, our trade balance with the U.S. is around $70 billion. Half of that, around $35 billion, are basically chips, MEMS, and semiconductor products. Next one, please. We would like to become, to introduce ourselves even stronger, being on the semiconductor supply chain, more on the ATP and the SNT processes. We are working towards that and working with companies that are on this part of the supply chain of the semiconductor industry. Next one, please. So the advantages of developing here in Chihuahua, first of all, is our skilled workforce, our cost-effective manufacturing, and the strategic location, as I said before, in the middle of the epicenter, let's say, of the semiconductor industry in the U.S. Next one, please. Right now, we have cutting-edge fabrication facilities with very advanced equipment that as we speak is basically put into work here in our state. We have several R&D centers that are receiving funding from the state and federal government that further strengthen the innovation and technology advances. And as we said before, globally connected networks that are helping us on this objective of becoming a semiconductor hub in the north part of Mexico. Next one, please. We support strong incentives and policy regulations that on these financial incentives, tax benefits, and grants that we are offering from cash grants to subsidies. We are working with global companies interested in being part of our ecosystem, and our favorable regulations and policies are designed to support and promote the semiconductor industry here in Chihuahua. Next one, please. We do see some challenges and opportunities. On the first one, I would say market competition. For everyone here, we know intense competition to define the manufacturing size, the development size, R&D center size for semiconductors is quite a challenge and opportunity for our state. And also talent retention, which is a key part of our process on the semiconductor. So retention and of skilled talent and continuous development is one of the areas that we are working on with schools located all over the world that are leaders, let's say, on the semiconductor industry. Next one, please. We have already success stories from last year to this year. We have seen quite interesting technological breakthroughs, and the strategic collaboration are helping us to drive the growth and success stories in our industry. Next one, please. I will say that this year, Wistron is assembling the GB200 family of servers with NVIDIA chips here in Ciudad Juárez in Chihuahua. The next one to follow this process will be Inventec, both of them Taiwanese companies that have been here in Chihuahua for over 20 years. So right now we are shipping from Ciudad Juárez to all over the world, Meta, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, so on and so forth. The new family of GB200 servers, the Blackwell servers, and as we speak, in the next 2 to 3 months, we'll be opening up new facilities that will increase the capacity of the Taiwanese cluster located here in Chihuahua, in Ciudad Juárez, in Chihuahua, that will further strengthen the ties in the semiconductor. Obviously, here we are bringing from all over the world, Taiwan, the US, chips from Skyworks, chips from different suppliers, AMD, and some others, IRM, and some others that are being part of these processes. So we do see for the future, or better said, we do see a bright future for the digital world, the artificial intelligence that, as we all know, is requiring a lot of infrastructure, a lot of servers. So Chihuahua is becoming a hub in Mexico, and having Arizona and Austin as a markets for these products. We do believe that this industry will grow in the coming years. Next one, please. So for us, we do see a bright future for the growth potential of the semiconductor industry here in Chihuahua, market expansion, technological innovation, and strategic partnerships. So for us, being here with you today is a sign of our commitment. I wasn't able to be there personally, but anyway, we will continue to be everywhere the semiconductor industry is being discussed. Last year, we had a huge presence in Taiwan. For this year, we'll continue to be the same, and we expect to have and strengthen the ties with Arizona and Texas on the semiconductor industry in the U.S. Next one, please. We do have around 5,000 students that are graduating annually from STEM careers, over 20,000 technicians. We do have lots of partnerships with schools like ASU, University of Texas in El Paso, the University of Michigan, Intel, Microsoft, the MIT, and some other schools that basically what we are doing is sending our best and brightest to continue developing the talent required for developing this industry. Next one, please. And almost done. So I'll say that the talent development is a key area of our state. The development of high-skilled labor with technological capabilities in sheet metal, metal mechanics, automation, plastic, PLCs, so on and so forth, is part of our daily effort through an organization that is called Senaltech, which basically Senaltech received funding from the state and the federal government, and it's basically on the job training for our technicians in our state. Next one, please. So as I said before, we do have fiscal and non-fiscal incentives that are available for projects within the strategic sector that I mentioned before. On these ones, we will say that our process is quite straight. On fiscal incentives, we are talking about subsidies in payroll taxes and some other taxes, also talent development grants that are part of our incentives. And then non-fiscal incentives, we do have a program that has been quite successful, that has been up and running for the last 3 years, 23, 24, 25, that basically
Ahora no.
that want to locate in your state.
Yo tampoco.
We've got a little noise on the
Next
Zoom
one, please.
call. Go ahead.
So basically, this is our presentation for today. It's just a very brief overview of the things that are happening here in Chihuahua. We highlight and mention once again that becoming a hub from the GB200 servers using the latest technology has been quite an honor for us to have this Taiwanese cluster here that is making this possible. So hopefully for next year, we have some key developments that we are working on right now. And well, I'm at your service here in the Secretary of Economy in the state of Chihuahua. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to present some of the highlights of our state. And once again, we hopefully next year, we expect to be there on our own, sharing with you some more good new information from Chihuahua. Thanks a lot, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you, Fernando. That's Fernando Alba. He's the Chihuahua Deputy Secretary of Innovation and Economic Development. Mario Juarez is representing Chihuahua, and he's here. He's the Executive Director at Chihuahua Global, and he'll be available during the break, which we're going to take right after we talk to Mark. Mark, could you come up, and we're going to wrap up and then take a short break and then get into our Asia portion. But could you just, Mario, just introduce yourself and comment on what we just heard?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you to the Global Chamber for the invitation. As Fernando mentioned, my name is Mario Juarez. I'm the CEO for Chihuahua Global. We are basically like GPEC, a non-profit organization for attract foreign investment into the Chihuahua state, and we will provide all the information. In the shares, there is one page that can give you an idea of what is happening in some of the information that Fernando Alba present. We work very close with the state government and with the different authorities, and we're going to be here for any question and more than glad to assist you. Thank you very much.
And Mario will be available at the break. Before we leave North America and move on to Korea and Japan and Taiwan this afternoon or after the break, let's talk a little bit about the real estate market here. And there's nobody better than Mark Pierce to talk about that. He's got a few minutes, and then we're going to take a break. Mark.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Thank you, Doug, for allowing me to present. Something that's very near and dear to my heart is the semiconductor industry. As Doug mentioned, my name is Mark Pierce. I'm one of the partners and principals at Lee & Associates, Arizona. We're a national commercial real estate firm. Full service, we handle sales and leasing of industrial properties, office properties, all the above. And my specialty is in semiconductor, because my journey in semiconductor occurred in the early 90s when I was the project lead for our company in doing real estate for Intel and their requirements in the state of Arizona. So from that time, we've really kind of been operating in that space, and we've seen a lot of tremendous growth in the industry, and we're real excited. So I wanted to, next slide, please. Oh, I can. Okay, which one is that? What button? This one? One more. There we go. Oh, it worked. So this is our brand. We are really pieces of the puzzle. We like to make a complete project. We finish what we start. In the semiconductor space, you can imagine there are hundreds, if not thousands, of suppliers, vendors, materials, and it's very complex. So we've specialized in this space for about 33 years. And I'm the project lead for the Property Solutions team at Lee & Associates, Arizona. And I thought I'd share some numbers with you, some statistics that are pretty fascinating for me because I can see some correlations. I'm a numbers guy. So in Arizona, our total inventory just for industrial properties that are ideally suited for industrial operations, warehousing, and semiconductor and manufacturing and advanced manufacturing. The total population or the universe for that product is 437 million square feet in Phoenix. We currently have under construction 20 million square feet, and our vacancy rate is a very comfortable, very, I'd say very solid and stable rate of 12.9%. And then our average lease rate, the cost of lease, is $1.13 per square foot triple net. And I'll get to a correlation here in a second with that. The average sale price for our properties are $174 per square foot. So those two values, when you compare those to other semiconductor hubs, we are very attractive. We have very soft rates, very attractive lease rates and sale prices. So what we've done in the last 3 years, just to give you an idea of the market velocity and the health. So last year we did 1,751 transactions or deals. The average size of those deals were 14,600 square feet. Or I'm sorry, 14,900 square feet. The year before that, in 2023, 1,719 transactions with an average square foot size of 14,600 square feet. The total leased amount in that market was 25 million square feet in 23. Last year was 26 million square feet. So you can see the stability and the consistency. And 3 years ago in 2022, there was 1,217 transactions, and the average rate was a little bit larger, and the square footage size was at 26,000 square feet, and again, around 32 million square feet leased that year. So what the good news for Arizona is there's product and there's supply. We have demand meeting the supply, et cetera. And that has a direct correlation on the cost of leasing or the cost of operations. Our lease rates are very attractive compared to other markets like Hillsborough. I've worked in Hillsborough on some projects. I've worked in the the Austin market, which is another hub. And all of these other areas are much higher than our values. So it's a good place to do business is in Arizona. Some exciting new projects that are coming online. One is I'm very excited about is in the west part of Phoenix near TSMC. It's a project called Halo Vista. It's 2,300 acres, and it will be a technology park, an industrial park, solely centered around TSMC suppliers, and even suppliers for Intel. This is going to be a great little hub. And then we have some other exciting projects in the area as well. The next slide here. These are some case studies if you want to look at that. You can also go to our website. You can learn a little bit more, do a deeper dive on lease rates, sale prices, availability of product, square footages available. And we're happy to, and that's my team, the multi-market experts of the Property Solutions team. And we truly do finish what we start. That is our tagline. And I'd like to also add, we add value to the whole process. So if you want to have some more information or reach me, I'm happy to provide a 1-hour consultation. You can reach us at the QR code. It's our website, propertysolutionsaz.com. Thank you.
You've heard of the hardest working man in show business. This is the hardest man or woman in commercial real estate, works very hard. It's 5 minutes to 4, so we're running a little bit late, but let's take a 15-minute break, start again at 4:10 local time, and we'll start with Senator Kelly. And then we've got Korea, Japan, and Taiwan, and we'll wrap up at 6 o'clock. And we've got to keep that time because of Mr. Xi. 15 minutes, 10 after, we'll restart. Thanks, everybody.
You were going to introduce me to someone? Why don't you just send me her information? How's that? The person working in Japan, working with